How's it going, Internet Land? Zachamus Prime, aka Zachamus Prime, here with the Macross review, another Macross review, and the figure I'm going to be reviewing today is the DX Chogokin 148 scale VF 8. This is the Hikaru Ichio version, or if you are one of the filthy plebs who only watches Macross, it's the Rick Hunter version. But you know what? That's not even applicable because this is the version that was seen in the Macross Do You Remember Love movie, and there is no real analog for that in the Robotech universe. So yeah, but it's the same character, just movie version instead of TV show version. I try not to mention Robotech when possible because I hate the company that owns it. So it's all Macross from here on out. But anyhow, this figure, this is one of those figures that I have a difficult time talking about because this figure, you hear me say on my reviews several times, oh, well, it's not a perfect figure, but, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Oh, well, it's not a perfect figure. Oh, it's a very good figure, but it's not a perfect figure. This guy said that about, by the way, size comparison. This figure is a perfect figure. It is fantastic. It is wonderful. It is amazing. It is just stunning in every possible way. And I'm really jerking Bondi at this point, but it's such a good figure. I have been a fan of Macross for a long time. Yes, I did grow up watching the R Devil, and I enjoyed that, and I still do. It's not an awful show. It's just the people who own it are awful. And so, like when I was a kid, I was also into Transformers. I had a G1 Jetfire, which is a VF1S just like this. And I loved that toy till I ended up breaking it. Sad day in Zachamus's life. But it was so good. And ever since then, I have been on the hunt for just a VF1S that made my heart sing. And when Yamato first came around and they came out with their VF1 toys, their old 1/60th scale version 1 VF1 toys, I bought one. I bought a VF1S Roy Fokker type, and it was great for what it was. But over the years, I just became increasingly dissatisfied with it. I eventually ended up giving it to a buddy of mine who's a huge fan of the R word, and he's a good guy, but he doesn't know the true Macross, and so he didn't understand. But it's okay because I gave that to him because I didn't need it anymore. This figure's so good. There's so many things that they added into this figure that they've never done before. The ball joint at the head has never been on a figure like this before. The individually articulated lasers that are also on a ball joint. So the lasers can spread out and point in. That's never been done before. You've got these little flaps. Let me bring up one of these flaps. Of course, we're going to see this in a little bit in transformation, but these flaps get brought up and cover that gap there. Of course, it's got an integrated neck cover here. It has an integrated heat shield. This joint here is brand new. These articulated hands are the best we've ever seen on a Valkyrie, ever. Just, oh, and it's got a waist joint, which I'll also have to show off in a little bit. First, let me, gosh, I don't even know where to start. So, of course, the legs are accessed via a swing bar. Let me pop this open a little bit and show this swing bar. And the swing bar is coming undone. But basically the idea is that come on, that you can keep all of this connected for a perfect transformation. There we go. You can keep all this connected for a perfect transformation. Let me pull this open real quick and actually yank the legs out. And they go on the swing bar just like every old VFS for ever since Yamato came out with the with their 1/148 scale Valkyries. So you can do that, or you can take and flip this open and pull this out, and that will physically disconnect the legs. And then you can take and you can fold this underneath this little structure part here. While I've got this open, I do want to install the side, the chest fillers. That'll plug in there. You've got a little tab and a tab. This tab fits into that hole there, and this tab slides over the end of this slot. Or yeah, just like so. Just like so. Yeah, just like so. Anyhow, so you get all this pegged together, and let me guide this into its home. Bam. All right. And then you'll take this, plug it into there, and then take this little tab right here, and it plugs into that slot right there and holds in very securely. Close all this back up. So it's not a perfect transformation at this point, but it's got a waist swivel. We haven't seen a waist swivel since freaking the absolutely atrocious Reveltech figures. Like, it's so nice. And I mean, it's not a huge amount of waist swivel, but you know what? That much really adds some dynamic character when you've got the posability in. So, sorry, I'm just gushing over this figure so much. All right, let's get into his accessories really quick. It comes with 8 sets of hands. These are installed when you pull it out of the box. These are the fully posable hands. I'll get into the posability on them in a little bit. It comes with another 6 pairs of hands. You've got your closed fists like so. You've got your open hands like so. And you've got pointing hands like so. These are also used to hold the gun pod. Of course, the gun pod is an accessory. This is a very large gun pod for a 1/48 scale figure. And that has got a slot on the handle. It will tab into one of these posable hands like so. Curl the fingers around. And it looks decent. It does not look bad by any stretch of the imagination. But you can, of course, swap these out. Just yank on the hand here. Plug in another hand. and then just slide this into the hand. And there you have it. Now he's got his fixed pose. The fixed pose is a little bit bigger. You can see here it is a little bit bigger hand than the included hands, but that's because it doesn't need to transform. It doesn't have the capability to transform with those fixed pose hands on. but it does look very, very good. I like it a lot. You can also attach the gun pod strap. I'm just going to yank his whole hand off. The gun pod strap has got these two little plastic doohickeys. One of them plugs in right here. The other one plugs in right down here. Plug. And this is a nice, very soft, kind of a vinyl material. And the strap looks very good hanging on there. Of course, if you want to, you can hang it over his shoulder. Because, I mean, that's what you do with a shoulder strap, right? But more specifically, if you really want to, you can fold this gun pod up, and you can store it on the back of his arm like so. And so there's a lot of options you can do with it. Another thing he comes with, which I've kind of showed a little bit, is this little tool. It's just got a couple little prongs on it. It's their version of a spudger. This will help you when you're yanking off the intake covers or when you're pulling out the landing gear. You'll see me pull this out a couple times. And then that's mostly it for accessories. It also comes with a stand. Let me put this to the side. This stand is exactly the same as, well, it's not exactly the same, but it's very similar to pretty much all the stands that Bandai has come out with in years. So I'll plug this in going up like that. This accessory will go onto there like that. And then these little clips, and I've got a little break in that one, unfortunately. These little clips will clip right into over the hips, the hip joints. Like so. And the hold is actually quite good. I mean, the stand's a little bit wobbly because it's got a figure standing up on the top of this long skinny stick, but you know, it stands there and you can pose it freely however you want. And so that's all well and good. But I'm going to take this off and we'll get back to the stand later. Wow, I accidentally undid his nose cone, which is something this is a feature that will come into play in a future accessory pack. So, but anyhow, let's get into his posability real quick. His head, as I mentioned, is on a ball joint. It'll look up, it'll look down, it'll rotate. It does have a hinge joint down below the ball joint, and that's what will be used as it rotates to turn left and right. The head cannons are on individual little joints, and the assembly itself is also on a ball joint, so it'll come in and out and forward and back. So he can move his lasers forward to shoot something, or I've seen some people like to pose them with the guns facing forward a little bit, like so. I always like to have them facing back. I feel it has more of a Japanese mecha feel to have the guns, the head cannons facing back. But you know, these shoulders are on a ball joint. There's a hinge here, like a butterfly joint, for transformation mostly, but you can definitely get posability out of it. It's stiff enough to work. So it's got a, let me see, actually, does that have a ball joint? That is not a ball joint. It's got a hinge right here. This shoulder, by the way, moves. This rotates and moves out, so it'll get out of the way to bring his arm up to a full tree pose. Of course, it'll go all the way around. He does have a bicep swivel, double jointed elbow bending there and there, so he can poke himself on the shoulder. Very, very nice. Ball joint at the wrist. There are ball joints at all of his hands. That's how it attaches and detaches. This posable hand has got a ball joint at the thumb and a single joint in the thumb. And then each of the fingers has got 1, 2, 3 joints on it for basically full posability, everything except for spread. If you do the doohickey with the swing bar, it does have a waist joint. The legs are on ball joints. They'll go forwards this much before they start hitting the wings, and backwards that much before they start hitting the wings. And they'll go out that far. But in addition to that, it does have a joint down here. This is a new joint. No other figures had this joint before. That joint allows it to go out that far. So you get actually a fairly good amount of spread on it. Not like the full Van Damme, but it's pretty decent, especially for a Valkyrie. It does have the Gearwalk joint here, which you can definitely use in this mode. It has a rotation here at the knee, and then a single jointed knee, but the joint is interesting in that. So you've got, this is it fully collapsed, and then you can extend it out, and you can extend it out in several positions. Like it'll go out that far and then click, and that far and then click, and that far and click. And strictly speaking, each click gives you a little bit of extra posability on that knee, but it'll bend up to 90 degrees. It does have a kneecap cover, which it looks best if you pose that with the knee. Though if you're like super old school and you grew up on a figure that didn't have a kneecap cover, then maybe that looks more natural to you. But despite growing up with a super vintage figure, I like the kneecap cover personally. This panel right here will fold out of the way as you handle it. It is meant to be in approximately this configuration, but it will get bumped and jostled and moved. That's perfectly all right. It's easy enough to put that back into its place. It does have also an extension on the ankle joints. You can pull that out all the way. I think it really is meant to go out all the way for Batteroid and Gearwalk Mode, but you can put it in just a bit to kind of hide that joint a bit and give it different aesthetics. When it's out all the way, it'll go forwards and it'll go back, and it will go side to side. It does have, it's got a hinge joint down there, but that hinge joint doesn't affect this. What it is, that hinge joint attaches into a ball joint, and then that allows it to pivot around like this central position here. And so it looks very natural as it tilts, and it's just really, really good. There's just been so much thought and design and engineering that goes into this toy. I'm super impressed with it, 100%. Anyhow, let's get this guy switched into his Gearwalk mode. By the way, Gearwalk mode is probably my favorite mode for the VF1, and certainly for a lot of other figures. If you followed me for a while, you've probably seen me put all sorts of weird figures into Gearwalk modes, even ones that don't have them designed. So anyhow, we're going to start with the chest. We're going to yank on this to pull it all apart. And that one fell out. This one here will just come out. On this side, it really just, this little tab fits into this slot that the arm goes up and down. And so it's not, it'll just come right out. We want to extend out the wings a little bit, pull out the backpack. That'll allow us to get this hatch open. We want to pull up on the chest a bit. That'll get these flaps out of the way. Just kind of move those out. The head is going to, we're going to fold down the cannons and tilt the head all the way back. And then rotate this around to face forward. Let's bring this up and around to fold that away. And then let's pull out this swing bar. We're going to attach the legs back to that. We want to take this is going to slide back on this double joint. And as it slides back, you want to kind of slot these pylons into those hollows, like so. But they're not going home quite yet. You want to take and you want to press on this heat shield and kind of, it's going to push in. So basically it's going to fold down like this. You can kind of see the track. Well, let's get a light in there. You can see that track in there. And it's just this like curved line. Maybe you'll see it better from this side. See, there's the track in there. And so it doesn't actually move forward. It's kind of curved. So you want to bend this down. That'll allow you to slide this in past that part. And then it's going to slide all the way to the end of that track. And you'll see it stick out a little bit on this side. So get those slotted in. You see, so it'll stick out on this side, but not on this side. And then when you fold this down, basically what's going to happen here is you are going to be forcing this corner. Let's show this one more time. Basically, you're going to be forcing this corner past this corner. And it's going to click as it does that. And there it is. This is going to fold down and it's going to completely miss that heat shield. And it folds flush. We're going to put this assembly back up here where it's supposed to go. The arms are going to stay exactly where they are. The legs, we had these disconnected. We're going to pull these out now. While we do that, we're going to move this little part forward and then fold it back down. So that's going to close this all back up. Let's reattach these legs real quick. Open this panel up. This is going to slot into there. And then this is going to close over that. And it'll actually latch up if I get everything seated properly, which I have. Now what's going to happen is we want to take these legs and we want to fold these forward. So we're going to hold this bar steady, fold these forward. You'll notice there's a flat. Maybe you didn't notice. You'll notice there's a flat on, gosh, my lighting is not doing me any favors today. Okay. You'll notice there's a flat on the top of, on part of this little joint right here. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold this around so that this flat is parallel with the flat of the back of the legs. And then you're going to swing these around, and these bars are going to swing in, and they, oh gosh, they came off. They are going to clip into these clips right here. Let me get that head fully recessed in. Also, as you do that, you'll notice that there's a tab here that's going to fit into that slot right there. And it will just click into place. And click. Oh, come on. Click into place. And now, once we're at this point, we're going to make sure that this gearwalk joint is extended. You want to make sure that the knee is extended good. You want to make sure that the foot is extended all the way. That'll allow you to get a nice aggressive stance. So extend that, extend that. Let me put my camera down. Get all this crap out of the way. And here you have it in its gearwalk mode. And in this mode, you'll see here that it's got a nice aggressive stance. I wish I had a little bit more space in this display. My table's not as big as the one I used to have. Let me lower this. Maybe that'll help me. Sorry, I've got one of those janky ball joints on all the legs tripods, so adjusting it is kind of a thing that I have to do manually. So you'll notice that it has this nice aggressive stance here. The head is recessed very, very well. You can take and straighten these head lasers out and then line that up. These head lasers, by the way, will be bumped all the time as you're handling this toy. It's just something that you're going to have to get used to. But here we are in its gearwalk mode, and there is one additional accessory. Let me grab it out of my bag of tricks here. And that is this antenna. This antenna was seen in several of the line arts. It just plugs in. This is made of palm, and it just plugs in. I am not a huge fan of the antenna. I think that it's inherently fragile on any toy that it's on, really, and doesn't seem to, I don't know, it doesn't really do it for me. So I'm not a fan of that. I don't keep it around generally. But you'll see here the arms retain pretty much all of their posability that they had in Battleroid mode. The hand, of course, you can continue to attach the gun pod into the hand so he can fire it in all directions while in gearwalk mode. In this mode, we are now revealed the cockpit. You see I've got a little Hikaru Ichijo figure inside here. The cockpit opens up just nicely. The figure comes out. Ooh, and apparently his control panel comes out as well. That's a first for me. But there is the little Hikaru pilot. You'll notice that this is the Do You Remember Love version, not only of the costume but also of the pose. In the TV version, he had his flight stick was between the knees, like with a lot of fighter planes. And then, you know, the throttle or mode shift was on the other side. In the movie, it was 2 sticks on either side, just like this. And so it's cool that they've got, of course, they came out with TV versions of the VF1 and the movie versions of the VF1. So this cockpit is actually, the internals are a separate part that I'm sure just swaps out. As you saw, the control part comes out. The controls are actually pretty well detailed in terms of sculpt or whatnot. It would have been nice if they had a little extra paint on them, but you know, whatever. It is what it is. Of course, it does have this nasty mold seam down the middle. I wish that there was some post-processing done on that to clean that up, but I don't know. I'm not in charge of Bandai and how they do their stuff, and I will say that Bandai consistently makes really, really good stuff. I think the first DX Chogokin toy I ever had of theirs was their DX Chogokin Aquarian, and that figure was complicated as hell, but just really, really, really well made. So, and you know, with this view here of the wings at the top of the plane, I'd like to point out how many wonderful tampo printings there are just everywhere. There's tampo printings all over the place. In fact, I've seen people on the Macross World forums complain about, oh, it's got so much tampo printings that it just looks busy and obnoxious, and they've actually taken some acetone to it to remove some of the tampo printings. But I personally love them. Of course, I'm also a fan of the Hajime Katoki style markings that are everywhere. So this is nothing compared to that. As anybody who's built a master grade version Katoki kit or whatnot can personally attest to. So this is just a beautiful, beautiful mode. But let's get him transformed up once again. For this one, we're going to take the gun out of his hand. We're going to swap his hand off for the posable one. This is going to come into effect once again to help us pry that open. You do want to curl his hand into a fist, like so, with the thumb in, and then that is just going to fold straight up and in and close that back up. Again with the other side, curl his hand into a fist. I'd love to see somebody repaint one of these into like a Masterpiece style Jetfire, you know, from the Transformers. And I'm sure somebody has. So those are folded up. We're going to take these, we're going to flip this over. And these will get, you're going to lift up on these to release them from that home and then slide them straight back. I've also dislodged the leg. That's fine. We can just plug it back in like so. Let's get this other arm dislodged, and there we go. We want to pull these all the way back. And the arms are going to fold on top of each other like so. And they just hang out right there. At this point would be a good time to collapse your gun pod and slide the handle in. You can just sandwich the handle in between the arms right here, and then slide this whole assembly forward like that. And that is where it's supposed to go. And you'll see that there are little tabs right here and little slots right here. Those slots will go right onto those tabs. Bada bing, bada bang. You want to fold this panel up right here and fold this all the way out. And that's where that's going to rest for now. You want to take this leg, straighten it out, collapse this all the way in, and then you're going to fold this down. And again, there's a tab here and a slot here. And that tab is going to home into that slot. And then there's a tab on the inside of the leg and a slot here on the wing, on the tail fin section. That's going to peg into that. Close up the foot, collapse that all the way in, and we'll do the same with the other side. Straighten all of this out, collapse that in, close the foot, collapse that in. Put that in its tab, put that in its tab, and then you kind of give the whole thing a squeeze, and that's going to straighten up your gun pod. And we're pretty much done here. Take this tails out. You'll notice that one of these slides out. That will allow you to get this other one to go past that. If this didn't slide, you wouldn't be able to get it past, you wouldn't be able to get this tail fin past that one without scraping something up. Very, very wonderful how this was designed. These I have jostled out of place. We're just going to pull those back out. And there it is. Whoops. There it is in its fighter mode. Oh, also I've completely jostled the head lasers. And if we take this tool here and just kind of, okay, that tool I don't like as much. Take this one here, just kind of poke these out. And we can see the intake details. And there it is in its fighter mode. And it's just beautiful. It has a really, really just gorgeous, gorgeous fighter mode. Looking great all around. The tampo printings look fantastic. It has just tiny little details all over the place. That one says arm slide door. This one says something something hot air discharge, something something joint inside. Little serial number, something on that. ARMD01. Here's the Skull Squadron symbol on it. UN Spacey. You'll notice a lot of people, I showed this to my nephew and he's like, how come UN Spacey's upside down on the gun? And I said, actually, it's right side up on the gun. It's right side up for fighter mode. And he's like, I don't get it. And I was like, well, you're not a Macross fan. But just really gorgeous. I'm also going to take this time to pull out the landing gear so that I can sit it down while I talk about the rest of his features. And that's a nice little pokey surface here. The landing gear is always kind of a struggle to me to pull it out because it's very, very, very flush. Let's see if this spudger works best. Of course, I mean, I can pull it out and it's not a problem. You just got to use some sort of a pry tool of some sort. As you pull this out, the door comes all the way off at some point. It's just clipped into there. But the door extends out. As it comes out, you'll see and then that slides in. But now with that one out, you can just use your finger to pull that out and then pull up this little landing light. And then you can pry out the gear, which comes straight out and then come out slightly. And let's do the same for the other gear. got that starting to come out. Let's see if I can do it without disconnecting. Yeah, the flap this time. Bring these out. Bring this out. Hook that into there. Pull out the landing gear. And then just do the same for the front gear. Pull that one. Pull that one. Pull that one. And then this has got a little tow bar that you can grab it and pull it out. And it sits quite nicely on its landing gears. And I can show you, let me zoom on down. I can show you some of the other features of the fighter mode. Of course, it's got an opening cockpit. It has functional flaps on the wings. It has the landing gears, and of course you can do thrust vectoring on the feets. But just really gorgeous, and you'll see that of course everything clears. There's no problem with the gun pods scraping along the ground. It's just a very, very nice thing all around. I do really enjoy. Oh, it's got a air brake here. And I do really enjoy that it has actual the intake cover detail molded into the top side of the intakes. That's one that we haven't seen on figures before, I believe. I think that's a nice little detail. I also really like how far the head recesses into the fuselage from the side. That's basically line art accurate right there, which is really nice. You'll see there's still a gap here. I don't recall when it happened. I guess it kind of happened in the movie when Hikaru was trying to chase Minmay when she was falling. You can actually pull the arm out and have it extended to this position while still having the leg fully tabbed in all the way down the way. And so that's a little feature that, didn't need to be there, but it is, and it works just perfectly. And there's actually like a little cutout on this thigh section here to facilitate that. Like this is an on-purpose thing, not an incidental or accidental thing. But anyhow, this figure is gorgeous. If you are a fan of Macross or if you are a fan of Robotech, absolutely go and pick this up, and it will just reignite all of your childhood nostalgia. I love it. I love it so much. It's a beautiful, beautiful toy. But anyhow, thanks everybody for watching. I'll be back with this sometime soon. I've actually got a strike parts on the way from Japan, so I'll be back with a review of that before too much longer. And everybody, stay awesome and be good to each other. See ya.